For centuries, Egypt thrived under the sun, a kingdom founded on divine order known as Mad. Its young pharaoh, Prince Tut, governed a land of light, watched over by the gods, but a shadow was about to rise, a darkness born from an ancient grudge, threatening to undo the world. Something was wrong. The once vibrant fields along the Nile seemed to be losing their color. The midday sun, normally a blaze of glory, felt weak, casting strange, long shadows that ate the light. In the great temple of Karnak, the priests gazed at the sky, a knot of fear tightening in their stomachs. This wasn't just an eclipse. It was a sickness in the heavens. A creeping dread whispered of a primal evil, a chaos that sought to swallow the sun and plunge the world into eternal night. For the boy Prince Tut, and for a particular god of the dawn, the age of light was about to face its darkest hour. Prince Tut stood on his palace balcony, looking out over the lands he was trying to heal. He was just a boy, really, and the double crown of Egypt felt heavier than stone. His whole reign was supposed to be about fixing things. After the chaos of his father, Akhenaten, who'd thrown out the old gods for the one and only Aten-Tutankhamun's job was to bring back harmony, he'd reopened the temples, honored the priests of Ammon, and worked tirelessly to mend the spiritual wounds of his kingdom. But he felt fragile. His body was plagued by ailments that made every step a conscious effort, and his authority often felt borrowed from his elder advisers. He saw his reflection in the polished stone and didn't see a divine ruler. He saw a boy trying to fill the sandals of giants. High above, in the realm of the gods, Khepri, the god of the rising sun, felt the darkness like a physical blow. His very being was tied to the dawn. Every morning, in the form of a sacred scarab beetle, he pushed the sun disk over the horizon, bringing life back to the world. But now, the job was getting harder. The sun felt heavy, its light contaminated by some unseen rot. He could feel the tendrils of Isfit of chaos coiling around the holy sunboat of Ra, trying to stop its journey and snuff out its light for good. This had to be the work of his ancient enemy, the great serpent Apophis, the lord of chaos. That evening, as a sick-looking sun finally vanished, a cold wind whipped through the palace. Torches sputtered, and the shadows in the corners of the great hall seemed to stretch and deepen. From those shadows, a figure took shape not of flesh, but of shimmering, divine light. It was Khepri, appearing before the young pharaoh in his human form, his face a sacred scarab, etched with grim purpose. Tutankhamun. His voice was like the whisper of a morning breeze, but it carried the weight of eternity. A shadow from the underworld is falling on your kingdom. Apophis is growing stronger. He's trying to eat the sun, not just in the land of the dead, but here, in our world. If he does, there will be no dawn. Tut, though startled, felt a surge of purpose he hadn't known before. This wasn't about politics or court drama. This was a threat to the very soul of his kingdom. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice surprisingly steady. "The serpent's power is seeping through the cracks your father left behind," Khepri explained, his gaze distant. "All those abandoned temples and forgotten shrines, they've become gateways for chaos. We have to go to the heart of the decay and perform the rites of purification. As Pharaoh, you are the bridge between gods and mortals. Your faith has to be our weapon." And so, their unlikely journey began. Not with an army, but as two lonely figures against a gathering storm. Tut, leaning on his staff, and Khepri, his divine light, a tiny spark against the growing gloom. Their first stop, the ghost city of Akhetaten, his father's deserted capital. Its grand avenues were silent. As they stepped into the great temple of Aten, the air grew thick and cold with malice. From cracks in the stone, shadow creatures slithered out, hissing. Khepri slammed his staff down, and a sphere of golden light exploded outwards. The ritual. Pharaoh. Now. Tut's heart hammered against his ribs, but he stepped forward. He began the ancient chants. He spoke the names of Ammon, Osiris, and Ra. He called on the power of Mat, the divine order he was sworn to protect. As he spoke, the long-dead hieroglyphs on the temple walls started to glow with a faint, silvery light. The shadows shrieked and pulled back, not from Khepri's divine fire, but from the raw power of a mortal's belief and a king's duty. With one final, booming word, a wave of pure light blasted from Tutankhamun. The victory was temporary. Khepri knew then that the corruption ran deeper, that its source was now lurking in the Duatar underworld itself. To cut it off, they had to follow the path of the sunboat through the land of the dead. Their journey became a spiritual one, a descent into a nightmare landscape designed to break them. They crossed a river of black water where ghostly hands reached up, whispering awe of Tut's deepest insecurities: his youth, his weak body, the shame of his father's heresy. Khepri of ancient Egypt put a hand on Prince Tut's shoulder and said, "A pharaoh's strength isn't in his body, Tut, it's in his devotion. You are the defender of Mat. That's your power." Drawing on that, Prince Tut pushed forward, and the ghostly hands dissolved like smoke. Deeper in, they came to a gate guarded by a fearsome demon. It didn't demand a show of force. It demanded a confession. "Why should you pass?" it thundered. "You, the son of the heretic who tried to erase us." Tutankhamun looked the demon right in the eye. "Because my entire life has been about fixing what was broken. I didn't choose my father, but I chose my duty. I serve the god he abandoned, and I will see the sun rise again." The gates swung open. With every trial, Khepri grew weaker. His light dimming, the deeper they plunged into the darkness. But Tutankhamun grew stronger, his spirit hardening like a forged blade. He was no longer just a boy playing king. He was becoming the king his people needed. At the very heart of the Duat, in the deepest hour of the night, they found it. The great serpent Apophis, a being of pure chaos and endless hunger, was coiled around the sunboat of Ra itself. The serpent wasn't just attacking the ship, it was drinking its light. The other gods on the boat, Ra's defenders, fought hard but were losing ground to the serpent's hypnotic stare and bone-shaking roar. "It's over," Khepri whispered, his form flickering. "He has almost swallowed the dawn." "No," Tutankhamun said, his eyes blazing with a fire Khepri had never seen. "The dawn isn't just a light in the sky, it's a promise. And a pharaoh keeps his promises," continued Prince Tut. Prince Tut held up the most sacred thing he owned, a pectoral amulet from his own treasures, showing Khepri as a scarab beetle, crafted from gold and lapis lazuli. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a symbol of rebirth, a channel for divine power. He focused all his will, all the faith of his people, all his devotion to Mat, straight into that amulet. "Khepri, god of the morning," he yelled, "remember your purpose. Push the sun." The amulet exploded with blinding light. That light shot into Khepri, reigniting his divine essence. He transformed into his proper form, a colossal scarab beetle made of starlight and cosmic energy. He lowered his head and began to push, not against a simple disk, but against a sphere of pure, concentrated dawn that he had created, a conceptual weapon against chaos. Apophis turned its horrifying gaze on them. But Prince Tut stood his ground, holding the amulet out like a shield. The pure, unwavering faith of Prince Tut was something the Serpent of Chaos couldn't understand and couldn't overpower. As Khepri drove his sphere of dawn forward, the other ancient Egyptian gods, energized by this second wind, renewed their attack. The god Set plunged his spear deep into the serpent's side, and the underworld shook. With one final, gigantic push, Khepri's sphere of light slammed into the serpent. Apophis let out a roar that shook the foundations of the universe, a sound of pure agony and defeat. Its shadowy body uncoiled from the sunboat and dissolved, banished back to the most bottomless abyss of the cosmos. Wounded and beaten, the eternal battle was won, for now. As Apophis vanished, the sunboat blazed with power. The light of dawn, brilliant and pure, exploded through the duat, chasing away every last shadow. On the banks of the Nile, the people of ancient Egypt, who had been gathered in fearful prayer, shouted with joy as the sun rose, brighter and more glorious than it had been in months. Prince Tut stood on the deck of the sunboat next to Khepri, watching his kingdom be reborn. He had gone into the darkness, a boy king riddled with doubt, and had come out a true pharaoh, a defender of the light. His bond with Khepri was stronger than ever before. They were allies who had stared into oblivion together and won. He returned to his throne, his step certain, his gaze confident. He had not only fulfilled his historical destiny to restore the temples of Egypt, but he had, in this hidden war, helped save the whole universe. If you enjoyed this trip into ancient Egyptian myth, you can subscribe and hit that notification bell for more animated adventures, similar content. Let us know in the comments which mythological story you'd like us to tackle next. Until then, may your own path be guided by light.